Back to the Cambridge Economic Series. Today, Topic 3, Government Microeconomic Intervention. 3 ideas. Why government steps into individual markets at all, the actual tools government uses once it decides to intervene, and the single most common mix-up in this entire topic, and how government tries to address income and wealth inequality specifically, a genuinely different kind of intervention from correcting one market's failure. Real examiner findings, a real exam question, and real time to think before every answer. Let's start with why government intervenes in the first place. Markets don't always deliver the outcome society actually wants, and understanding exactly why is the first step before looking at what government can do about it. Here's a well-documented finding. Government-provided infrastructure mistaken for the actual definition of a public good. The main problem continues to be a lack of understanding of what a public good is. Many candidates either asserted that roads and bridges are public goods or merely grouped all infrastructure as a public good. They are not true public goods because of their characteristics of being potentially excludable and rivalrous. They could be provided by the private sector. Here's a second finding on the real disadvantages of a maximum price for an essential food item. Most candidates were able to identify a number of possible disadvantages: a situation of excess demand leading to a shortage, the existence of rationing and queuing, the establishment of seller preferences, and the emergence of a secondary, informal, or black market with prices well above the maximum price. But these were not always explained very fully. Here is your exam-level question. Explain why roads and bridges, even when government provides them, are not true public goods. Then explain at least 2 genuine disadvantages of government setting a maximum price on an essential food item. Here is the solution. A public good must be both non-rival and non-excludable. Roads and bridges are potentially rivalrous through congestion and excludable through tolls and access restrictions. So despite being government provided, they could in principle be supplied privately. Government provided doesn't automatically mean public good, and a maximum price set below equilibrium causes excess demand, a genuine shortage, since quantity demanded now exceeds quantity supplied at the lower price. This often leads to rationing or queuing to allocate the limited supply that exists, and it can create a black market, an illegal secondary market where the good resells above the legal maximum price to the buyers most willing to pay. Once government decides to intervene, it has a genuine toolkit: taxes, subsidies, direct provision, price controls, buffer stocks, and simply providing information. And one confusion here trips up candidates more than any other single mistake in this entire topic. Here's the most persistent mistake found anywhere in this research. Maximum and minimum prices simply confused outright. A few candidates misread the question and wrote about a minimum rather than a maximum price. The identical confusion shows up on the diagram too. Some candidates drew the minimum price line below rather than above the equilibrium. Here's a second finding, using the exact term the syllabus itself uses: incidence. Candidates were required to explain the effect and incidence of a subsidy in a market for essential transport. Many of the candidates who did make reference to the price elasticity of demand for essential transport thought that it would be relatively elastic rather than relatively inelastic. Here is your exam-level question. For maximum and minimum prices, explain the 2 most common mistakes examiners keep finding. One about reading the question, one about drawing the diagram. Then, for a subsidy in an essential transport market, explain what incidence means and why the elasticity of demand for transport actually determines who benefits most. Here is the solution. The most common mistake is simply misreading which policy is actually being asked about. Writing about a minimum price when the question asks about a maximum, or the reverse. The second is placing the price line on the wrong side of equilibrium on the diagram. A minimum price only has an effect if it sits above equilibrium. A maximum price only has an effect if it sits below equilibrium, and the incidence of a subsidy is who actually benefits from it: consumers through a lower price or producers through extra revenue. Demand for essential transport is relatively inelastic, not elastic. People still need to travel even as price changes, and because demand is inelastic, more of the subsidies benefit passes through to consumers as a bigger price cut rather than staying with producers. 2 topics down: why government intervenes in individual markets and the actual tools it uses once it decides to. Infrastructure that's government provided but still isn't a true public good. A maximum price with real disadvantages examiners keep asking candidates to explain in full. A minimum price and a maximum price confused outright more than once. 1 topic left, and it's a different kind of intervention altogether. How government tries to address inequality in income and wealth itself, not just fix one market at a time. Income is a flow, what someone earns over a period of time. Wealth is a stock, what someone actually owns at a single point in time. And measuring how unequally either one is distributed is the first step before government can try to address it. Here's a documented finding on the Gini coefficient. Most candidates were able to provide a good definition and understood the values of 0 and 1. However, a clear understanding of the meaning of values between the 2 extremes was not always made. Here's a second finding on evaluating redistribution policies. A high proportion of strong responses were evident, with candidates providing a range of appropriate policies. However, evaluation of the relative success of such policies was often lacking and replaced with assertions or simple summaries of what had already been discussed. Here is your exam-level question. Explain what a Gini coefficient value of 0 means and what a value of 1 means. Then, for 2 competing income redistribution policies, explain why simply describing each policy's strengths and weaknesses isn't enough to earn full evaluation marks. What does genuine evaluation actually require? Here is the solution. A Gini coefficient of 0 means perfectly equal income distribution. Every person or household receives an identical share. A value of 1 means perfect inequality. A single person or household receives all the income and everyone else receives none. Real economies always sit somewhere between the 2 extremes, and it's the movement toward 0 or toward 1 over time that actually matters for judging whether inequality is rising or falling. And genuine evaluation of redistribution policies means going beyond restating each policy's pros and cons. It means comparing them against each other. Which policy is likely to be more effective and why, given the specific context in the question? A policy assessment that just summarizes what's already been said isn't evaluation, it's description, repeated twice. 3 topics: why government intervenes, the methods it uses, and addressing income and wealth inequality. Notice something different about today's mistakes compared to earlier ones. It's not always about getting a definition wrong. Sometimes it's simply misreading which policy the question is even asking about, or stopping at description instead of reaching a genuine comparison. Precision isn't just about the right words. It's about actually answering the question in front of you. Next time, the macroeconomy, how economists measure a whole economy's performance, not just a single market. Search Cambridge Economics on StudyRevise for the rest of this series, and I'll see you in the next one.